I'd like to welcome everybody to the Forbidden History series. Um, this is Ask Dezert-Owl on the Forbidden History series. I'm NinjaCat, and I just want to say welcome to Join the Dots and to Kev. Thank you for joining and creating light that we have a amazing program today. In essence, Desert discusses the history of the world and how the unseen hand has been running it from the very beginning of recorded history. Who they are and how they have founded all of the first great civilizations that are found all around the world. About who the giants really were and the ancient Aryan caste and slave systems, the priesthoods, the anti-gravity V-manners, the Earth-based misnomered UFOs, which are all man-made, the control of all forms of communications, commerce, religion, mass media, pseudo-politics, etc. It is a grand deception that is used to control all of mankind, and all instituted through the four main religions of the world in particular, and used as their grand cover. Their cybercode has been revealed to him because he has become adept within the study of the ancient alphabets, communications, symbolism, religion, custom, law, cosmology and mythology, not to mention the fallacy of today's political science and pseudoscience in particular. He can also define the true nature of their warfare, their shell game of bringing one civilization up for their temporary use and then taking it down for the next 500-year generational cycle, as symbolized by the classical burning up of the phoenix. Desert discusses the ultimate in mind control, and ancient art and the financial control, the secret societies and their blood occult rituals, and how they wage all wars throughout all time through the nations that they have created, which are all imaginations, plantations, and mere corporations. They have taken blood oaths to surrender their self-will and mind to their blind goddess, who has demanded our blood from the very beginning of time. They communicate to their minions through the movies, TV, print media, and religion, while he can see, read, and interpret most all of it based on the ancient communication and symbol. It all says that they are using us for our ingenuity, for our collective constructive labour, for experimentation, and in the end they intend to kill us all. They have given us full notice of what they are doing and what they fully intend to do, while all of the general population, the sheeple, they merely go there to be entertained. The New World Order is the Old World Order from the very beginning of recorded history. There is a major cosmic natural disaster that is about to happen on Earth, and they know it because they have engineered all of it, while they are cleverly leaving us in the dark, hence the reason that they have built hundreds of underground bases all around the world, while they are leaving all of the people to remain unprepared, uninformed, and above ground, so that when it all comes, the mere 5% who will survive above ground will die from the weaknesses and disease that has been generated from all of the poisons that they have been feeding us, from the chemical aerosol spraying of our sky, to fluoride in the water, to tainted vaccines, to fake food, etc., etc. They have enslaved us all at birth by the clever means of deception, because we, most all, are their cattle chattel property, and because they merely wanted to harness our labour, what they always needed, which is what backs most of the world's currency through the birth certificate, a Wall Street security, but they are all through with us now, as it is written in stone, as it can be seen written in the Georgia Guidestones. It says, "We are a virus upon the earth." To know the truth is to be empowered and to be prepared. We may not be able to stop what has been done and what is about to happen, but the innocent and decent people on planet Earth deserve to know. And now, here's Desert Owl.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Welcome to the broadcast. You're tuned in right here to Ask Desert Owl on the Forbidden History series. We have a call-in number, 608-566-7295. 608-566-7295. That's Eastern Time, USA, here in Ohio. And if you want to call in on Skype, then you can call in on NinjaCat, all one word, NinjaCat, NinjaCat, just like it is on the board there. And any first-time caller, we get you a free copy by PDF of the Handbook of Christianity or any of the other books that you prefer and like on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com and then do a search for Dezert-Owl or click the link down below the screen and all the books will pop up. Okay, we're grateful for your joining us here this evening, for your participation and your comments or questions. You know, a lot of my listeners throughout the years knew a lot of stuff, and they've just made wonderful contributions in their own thoughts and participation. Yet at the same time, the illusion is so great that even when we thought we figured things out, we haven't figured anything out yet. It is quite an enigma to be in this world of darkness, you know, of where the people say they love us, but they really hate us, and they actually stay up late at night trying to figure out how they can kill us all because they don't care for their slaves anymore. They're just done with us now. So the good news is that the one who made all things came down and communicated with us. He's been communicating with us and all peoples at all variable times, at all times, throughout the existence of man on earth. There have been many cultures before the last one that came, which was the Aryan race. This is one of the greatest enigmas that we've been lied to about by the priesthood. All races are important. All races are have the opportunity to transcend this world. So, we are not natural to this world. All of life evolved, but mankind, which is not the correct terminology, Ashankind would be more correctly because it means the royal eyes. We are the royal eyes. We have been given two natures. One that is clearly evident by our serpent from below, and then we have a higher consciousness where we can wake up. And we see when we look at our eyes, because it's, as I said, Ashan means the royal eyes that came down. We are the royal eyes that came down. We did not evolve. We came down from the light. Each culture had their own Adam and Eve, but the last one that came, which is of the Aryan race, had a special purpose because Adam was the first for when he came down after all the other races were here, and many of them came and gone. The Aryan race was supposed to deliver truth to mankind about their superior nature and to help them along on their journey. This is why the Aryans were called the sky gods, the sun gods. You know, they had the blonde hair, blue-eyed, white skin. And it doesn't mean that the Aryan was better than anyone else, but they were given a gift of superior knowledge through Adam, who was up there in the atom, falsely called Eden, all the time that he was making all things. Yahshuah was making all things. It said he wanted to see what he would name all things because he breathed into him. He breathed the breath of life into Hadam and then took him up to the throne of the sun while all other creation came out, and Adam named all things. Well, if you name all things, then you must pretty well know how things operate to be able to name them, you know. And that was the great mystery, and that explains the ancient pyramid civilizations, polygonal civilizations all around the world, polygonal structures that fit like a jigsaw puzzle. It was like they said, okay, how can we make the walls as hard as difficult as possible? You know, and that's what they did. There was nothing virtually they couldn't do. So it's a great mystery, but that's the story that we talk about on here, ladies and gentlemen. There is no preferred race, but there is a history, and the history has to be accurately told. And this is why priesthoods corrupted our scriptures. They shuffled the verses, they changed the words, and therefore people have no idea the true saga and legacy. So what's important is the accurate history. Not a fable, not some child's tale about a snake in the garden, and and all the the simplicity, because the symbol is to be interpreted. The symbol. Okay. So before I go on, I've got a presentation here at the beginning. Then we'll open up for friends. I have one short question I'm going to answer real quick, and it will lead me right into my next my presentation here. And then when I get done with it, we'll probably go to a break. And when we come back, we'll take any comments or questions anybody has, and then we'll close out with the final read. Hopefully, the final read of the final hours of Yahshuah after he rose, and now he's visiting all of his friends and family, his loved ones. It's quite a story, and it's not the one that we're getting out of our Vatican filtered Schulteres scriptures. So hang in there. So we had a failure on our programming last night. Everything happened that could happen, and so we aborted because it's too difficult to ramp back up, and after you lose half your audience, they're going to go do something else, and it was just pointless. So we just shut down and said tomorrow's another day, and that's why we're here now. We have few of them left. I can tell you. You can see it yourself. I know that there's few days left because the communists have taken over, and they did it a long time ago. It didn't happen yesterday, and it came through the banking for sure, and the Vatican, and that's the story that we touch on. But I just real quick want to repeat myself now. I want to thank, we don't even know, but a gentleman named Sean, and he gave a donation to Ninja to help her. It was generous, and I we don't see that too often, and so it allowed her to get the food she needs and her bicycle brake. That is all of these little things that were left undone. She was able to get together, and so it was really great. You never know who's listening, and you never know who is out there appreciating our broadcast. We're not here, for the money. We're here to serve. There isn't there like the old terminology. I'm a star navigator. I don't use the word prophet. The original word is star navigator, for the one that knows the way back home, or as if you're in a ship out in the ocean and you've got to star navigate back to the shore. And that's what we're attempting to do here. But thank you again, Sean, for that, because the word prophet, there's no profit to be made here. You get persecution. I guarantee you that. And I myself in my ministry, serving Yahshuah, have not had an automobile for a long time. I'm talking about last century. It was never in the journey, because although I had a friend loan me a car for a while, that was nice, that type of thing. But friends, I've learned to walk, and I've learned to get rides and be creative. That's what we have to do. That's a sacrifice to do this type of work. I couldn't have a regular job and do this type of work, and so everything got, roof over the head, food on the table, streaming, telephone, all covered, but electricity, but never had the budget for the automobile. So and it's not about that, but at the same time, it's amazing. It's very heartfelt when somebody comes along and greases your palm, and that's what Sean did for Ninja. And so we just really want to show our gratitude in that way. Okay. I have somebody that is here in Ohio wanting to, well, I got a text a question today, and this is Gene up in northeastern Ohio, I think around Kent, Ohio. And so let me open up my phone and I'll answer that real quick because it's a short one. It's an easy answer. She said, any thoughts on Biden crashing the economy? Okay, so and I'll get the second part because it's part of it. It seems to be his priority. Well, I thought Trump did a pretty good job of doing that. If we're going to talk about the illusion, the great psyops, the great cartoon that we call Washington D.C., the puppet stage that is controlled and funded by the Federal Reserve Jewish bankers, right? So it's going to be more of the same and worse, because that's the direction we're going in. And anybody who can't see the handwriting on the wall and know where we're going, Gene, you know, it really hasn't begun to woke up yet. But I know that you've already got that stuff figured out, and I thank you for the question. And so that leads right into now, you see, because they played the experiment back in what was it, in the late 1920s. It was called the Great Depression. Well, what we're about to go into will be the great, we would be able to call, if we survived it, the Great Annihilation, because basically nobody will survive it. It's going to start with the economy, then it's going to go to the JAB, if you know what I mean, and then from getting stuck to nobody coming out alive. And then when you add the ozone layer and the fact that our planet is burning up, not just through the solar radiation, but you know, the UVB and UVC radiation. After UVC, you got X-ray. You know how bad that is, right? So that's what's happening. All the plants around this house are dying right now, literally. Yeah, it's unreal. I've showed it to friends when they've come by, and it's quite a show and tell, I got to say. And then people, you know, really get confused because they cannot wrap their mind around the fact that a bunch of psychopath, arrogant, self-centered, egotistical, special boys club membership only, you know, group of people could literally destroy the world. But it sort of makes sense, doesn't it, when you realize who these people are and how they have their own little code book that makes them special people, and then it even gives them permission to rape little babies, and at the same time says that we're goyim, cattle, and if they and to kill us is not murder. You know, can you say banking? Can you say Vatican? You know, and they all wear the moon cap. You'll notice they all see the Pope and those people who claim to be Israel but are not Israel. All seem to wear the moon cap for Lucy. You know what I mean? The great. You got to remember, signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor law. So I wanted to do a little book review here real quick, and to show you that again, everything is on the table. There is no secret. It's all an open secret, but we have to know where to gather our information. And if it doesn't take a lot of hard digging, you know, especially when you've got, I wouldn't recommend Google because, you know, they've done a pretty good job of messing things up. Facebook is on one hacker way, so let that tell you something. And they hacked into everybody's electronics apparently, and now giving all the data to the agency of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and now they're rounding up all the people that were in Washington, D.C. at the request of the trumpet, right? Come on down and on January 6th and have a riot, and then we'll round you all up. That was a pretty good setup, I think, right? And so the world is a stage, and the biggest stage of them all is Washington, D.C. That's the world stage right there. And so a book that I've read a couple times now is by Arthur Kessler, The 13th Tribe. And in here, that he was sort of a journalist of sorts, and wrote a number of books. And he defines the 13th tribe as the Khazar Jews, okay? The Khazar Jews. Now, Jew is a modern word. It's not an old word. The word Jew was never in our scriptures, ever. And it was an easy switch out because they used the, you know, when you have the word Judean, right? Judean, and then they take a late coming letter that is a manufactured letter, not a part of the original alphabet, and they take out the Y for Judean, and then they call them Judean. Well, you can see the similarity, so therefore it became easy to delude everyone and deceive everyone, and to get them to think that, you know, the Jews were in the scriptures. But the people calling themselves Israel today are not Israel, and when you look at it very closely, you can realize that's true. And not only that, but Israel, the pseudo-Israel today makes the SS stormtroopers look like Boy Scouts when you see what they've done to the Palestinians, and you know that the Mossad took down the World Trade Center with the Bush cartel, blood, skull and bones family, and the plot keeps getting thicker all the time, ladies and gentlemen. And but that's not the book I wanted to review. I was just referring to it because I had found another book actually on Amazon, and it's called, of all things, Facts Are Facts. Facts. Facts are facts. And I love facts because then there's when you have facts, you don't have theory, you have evidence of a fact, and the facts speak for themselves, you might say, right? So I'm going to just give a little review. I had a quote in here I wanted to actually get to, but then I thought, well, because I got it about half a year ago and I've never read it, and I was reading the back cover and I said, gee, I got to read this, and then I'm going to just do a little bit of the opener, to just get an opportunity to get my feet wet. But I knew that what I read on the back I should share with everybody because everybody's confused. They have an idea about who the bad guys are and how it all works. I just want to say, that the ones who are claiming to be victims, the world victims, the Jews, right? And I saw the Red Cross stats on all the concentration camps, and the stats actually added up to 60,000 that died in concentration camps because they didn't want to kill people. They wanted slave labor. That's how they built all that great infrastructure of machinery and weaponry, is with slave labor. So they wouldn't want to kill anybody. They needed the labor, and that's how they did it underground. They built a lot of underground bases, and a lot were top ground. Sure, they did experiments and did terrible things, but apparently it wasn't the Khazars that got the axe. It was actually the Sephardic Jews, which were actually the only last remaining remnant of the original Israel from the diaspora or the dispersion. And so it looks like that they wanted to get rid of the original Israel who did the banking, the banking that Hitler was a bastard child of the Rothschild Jewish banking family, and then be given phony parents, and then raised to look like just a natural guy. But then ultimately, when he goes to prison for 9 months, he comes out with a Jesuit version of Mein Kampf, my struggle. But it wasn't his struggle. It must have been the Jesuit struggle, since they wrote it for him. So that things are just not as they seem, ladies and gentlemen. And so the world victims, people that claim to be the world victims, let's see now, in the Catholic Encyclopedia, it says the Rothschild Jewish banking family are the protectors, like, in other words, a front for the Vatican, protectors and defenders of the Vatican Trust. So they are the fiduciary of the Vatican Trust. And so they control all banking worldwide. They can print all the numbers they want to print. In fact, with fractional banking, they can actually, they want to give out a loan, because if they give out a loan according to the rules of fractional banking, they can then multiply the numbers by 8 to 10 times. Give out $1,000 loan, we just created another $8,000 to $10,000. Wow. But the only problem is from all the goyim, they want collateral. If you got the special handshake, then we'll just write you a note. How about that? So the victims that run the world through banking, they brag about how they fund both sides of the war, right? They fund A and B and C, all the different sides of the war, and they say they don't care who makes the laws, just as long as they get to print the money. So they're above the law. And then they control the mainstream media, Jewish media, news for north, south, east, and west, northeast, well, NEWS, northeast, west, and south. Okay, the directions are in the news, they control, so the money, they control the news, then they control Hollywood. The Khazar Jews clearly, went there and founded Hollywood and all that, the Hollywood, and interesting enough that half the actors in Hollywood have changed their names. Even Kirk Douglas, who in my day, who couldn't like Kirk Douglas, because he looked like a really cool guy, but he changed his name. He's sort of like Jaime Wiener Schnitzel or something, with a little moon cap on his head, breaking the Pesach on, on their special day of Passover. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. It is just amazing. And so join the dots is saying, check out Dr. Sean Heros, the Pharaoh Show, Swiss German historic knowledge, including the Holocaust. Okay, very good. Thank you, Join. And so anyway, so they own all the media. In fact, they own the vaudevillian. All the comedians. All of them were Jews. Even John Wilkes Booth, who shot Lincoln, Knights of the Golden Circle. Okay, all of them were Jews. And in fact, in the Middle East, in between Europe and the East, you have right there Turkey at the choke point where Constantinople is, and right there you have a place called Nicomedia. Nicomedia means secret media. And what's interesting, when you look at the word in the middle, you see the word comedy. So it's all there. So they've been around a long time. That's the area of the Khazars. Okay, that's where they lived, in the steppes, in the foothills near the Black Sea, and in Turkey and all that region. But they were Aryan, but they adopted they were following the Babylonian Talmud, but they adopted the scriptures. They adopted the scriptures and the Talmud, I guess, at the same time, is the way the story goes, because they were a loose knit group of people, and they didn't have a lot of a disciplined culture, so to speak. And so they adopted the Talmud and went under the cover, like the pseudo-Israel today, of what they call the Talmud. Talmud is a code word for, Torah. Torah is a code word for Talmud. And so it's and I want to ask everyone to hold any questions. You can, make any comments you want, but I'm going to hold looking at the board because I'm getting a little what do I want to say? I'm 64 years old now. Give me a break, all right? And I'll look back at it. And don't forget, you can repost a question if you got it, or a comment when we get to that point. But so they also control the internet. They control the internet through the guy that wants to give us the jab, Bill Gates, and who's already committed genocide in India and Africa. They kicked him out of India, and he's still doing dirty work in Africa. And not only that, but his father, a Jewish attorney, was the head of Planned Parenthood, and harvested innocent babies through Planned Parenthood, targeted African Americans in particular, and then sold their body parts on the international market to make cosmetics and do experiments and put it in Pepsi Cola or whatever they did with it. I've heard it all, and I know there's a truth to all of that. I've not done the legwork as other journalists have, but I've heard the other journalists make these claims, and I know that this is the type of stuff they would do. They would want us to eat our own flesh. It's a sort of like a what do you want to call it? A ritualistic action, on their part. So they run everything, and at the same time they want you to feel sorry for them, that they're the poor victims, and anybody who talks about them is somehow attacking them. Well, I guess when you're committing mayhem and waging a genocide program on planet Earth, you would want to put up your buffer zone, and that creates the buffer zone. I was at I used to sell books at meetings, at public meetings, when I was in last century, before I got my house up on a lake, and because I had a divorce, and I bought a 100-year lease on a piece of property up there in East Texas. But prior to that, I was going to the gun shows, as well as to public meetings, patriot meetings, and selling books. And I was in the lobby of this hotel, big hotel in downtown Houston, and all of a sudden this Jewish woman comes walking past my table and saying, I'm there all by myself because everybody else is in the meeting now, and so I'm just staying with my books, waiting till the break and everybody comes out. And this Jewish woman walks by and says, "You racist, you racist, you know," and she's throwing this stuff at me. And I'm saying, "Ma'am, I've never seen you before. You want to come over here and show me what I have on my table that is racist?" You know, and because I'm not a racist and I don't hate anybody. Um, yes, we did have factual material like I'm going to share with you right now, but it's not racism to just state facts about who people are. And I'm going to show you that they actually claim these things. In other words, in their own dictionaries, in their own writings, in their own speeches, they actually claim what I'm sharing with you right now. And so they wear two faces. You see, the one that you'll see on the mainstream media, but then in all their other, in other words, it goes again to the old classic saying, it's all an open secret. There is no secret. They're laughing because we're goyim and we don't know how to. They're the controllers. You know, we're the ones that are the slaves. You know, capital. Remember, capital, which is the, you know, in Washington, right? Capital means head count. Kappa for the head, tali for the tail. Capital, head count, meaning they took all of our birth certificates, circumcised us males without our permission in an occult ritual as we were born, then took all of our birth certificates, changed the our lawful identity into an item sonan, meaning looks like, sounds like us, but it's not because it's all capital letters, and took it to the Secretary of State, from there to the Department of Commerce in Washington, and we became the head count. And the bankers then put $1 million or more now today into circulation in the economy of phony numbers for every slave baby that they put into slave labor and brainwashing and ignorance. Okay, so this is not a secret. It's just that they're not going to tell you. You're going to have to do the legwork and go figure it out while they're laughing at you and having a party on you. Okay, because obviously they've enslaved us. They needed our labor. The one thing they absolutely needed from us, ladies and gentlemen, is our labor. Okay, our labor. And without our labor, none of these great things could have been constructed. They are the designers. We were the builders. And then so that's the long and short of it. But let's now get into this book, Facts Are Facts. And it's who is it by? It's by Benjamin H. Friedman. And in fact, I think wait a minute. Addressed to, and it's addressed to David Goldstein, LLD. Facsimile reproduction reprinted in typeset to David Goldstein. And so this was October 10th, 1954, 2 years before I was born. And I'm reading the back of the book. Inscribed upon the cross when Yahshuah was crucified were the Latin words, Jesus Nazarenus Rex Aeduorum, unquote. And then Pontius Pilate was the author of that famous inscription. Latin was Pontius Pilate's mother tongue. Authorities competent to translate and pass upon the correct translation into English agree that is Jesus the Nazarene, ruler of the Judeans. It says Judean, but Judean would be the right way to say it. There is no disagreement among them about that. The word Jew, in quotes, the word Jew did not occur anywhere in English, in the English tongue, until the 18th century. That's the 1700s. And that's a fact, because prior to that, it had an I. And who was it? Charles Weisman. I've interviewed a number of times. Charles Weisman had a whole array of books. He was one of my inspirations. In fact, I was amazed at how he pumped out the books on all different topics, many of them about the law, but and the dispersion and all that as well. But he did a book on, it's right here behind me, in fact. It's called, let's see here, A Jewish Identity. And he shows the evolution of the word Jew from 1,000 years ago. And that's when it began, actually. But what's interesting is I actually found it in the Indo-Germanic, in the first Indo-Germanic dictionary I ever read. And it's like right in the back of the book. So, and I'll tell you who they're, you know, they said they don't care who makes the law, right? But listen to this. Listen to this. Here it is. Yewis. Type this in the chat, Ninja. Yewes. Yewes. Okay. And there we see it in the Latin as jus, Jus, or Jur. Or maybe she's gone right now. Let me do that. And
There's a delay, Desert. It's there.
oh, there in the chat to type in the chat.
Yeah, you get things. I don't know,
All
about
right.
half a minute after I do it. So
Oh.
yeah,
Okay. Well, then maybe I
So-
need to do a refresh. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll
you
do.
should see it now. Can you see it?
Oh, there it is. Okay. So then I'll put this underneath right there. Okay. So there's Yewes. Yeah. And so there. So it's saying here in the Latin, it's jus. Okay. Let me just do that here. Jus. Jur. And then LAW. Okay, so in their title, because it goes back into the Indo-Germanic, and it's pretty clear. I was astonished when I found that because I didn't know it had a derivative. Last page of the book, I read the thing from cover to cover. There was at the last, and so they're literally by who they are, and you see their arrogant nature, and that's not all of them, but I'm talking about those in control, the controllers, right? The controllers, the ones that are telling you know, the puppets in Washington what to do, what to say, and are engaged in genocide. That they are secretly calling themselves the law. But look at what the word is in the anagram, right? This is okay. But how would you spell it? W-E. Okay, then I'll do it like this. W-E-J. W-E-D-G-E, right? There it is. They're the wedge. You see backwards, it's wedge. They're the wedge in our society. And they've created the, you know, the secret societies that under the Jesuits, it's all under Jesuit control. But then they become the wedge in every organization, or as my retired intelligence officer's friend said, any group bigger than 3 people has been infiltrated. You know, so like this woman that walked past my table in this lobby of a grand hotel in Houston, you know, saying that I was a racist and I don't know what she was talking about. She never even came to my table ever. I never saw her before, and she knew who I was, right? She knew what, no, she was set up to do this as a wedge. And then she goes to the hotel owners and tells them to get this bookseller, this racist bookseller, out of there. And so the people who organized the meeting then had me come inside the meeting with my tables and my books so I could line the wall and be inside and not in the lobby. You know, so that's the type of game that they you know, they play. So continuing on here, and they're proud of being who they are. You know, this is not a slam on them. It's actually just the facts. We're just talking about facts here. Okay, we're told to love our enemies, so I feel sorry for these people because they hate us. They're the ones who hate us. They're the ones who hate. They're the ones who want to kill us. They're the ones who give us bad names, calling us goyim and chattel and all of the things that they've done throughout history. You know, by changing our scriptures. What about that? They want to call somebody an anti-Semite, and they've changed our scriptures through the Vatican. You know, Ron Wyatt, he discovered where Noah's Ark is, where the Ark of the Covenant is, right under the very spot where Yahshuah was crucified. He discovered the real Mount Sinai. He discovered the real crossing in the Sea of Aqaba. He discovered the second place where the water gushed out. You know, because there was 2 places. The first one, then later on, you know, when they moved on, he brought the water forth again. That's when he was condemned, because he said, "Shall we bring you forth more water?" You know, and he took credit for it. But my point is this: that if all of these things have been discovered, and they have, it's a fact, because I saw the different documentaries with Ron Wyatt. Then how come Israel hasn't announced it to the world? It's because what the word Bible means is a cover. They use our scriptures, Old Covenant, New and Everlasting New Covenant, as a cover for their diabolical Babylonian Talmud. You see, and so that's how the game is played. And it entered Jerusalem, YoChelleG, at when they came back from Babylon. That's when the Talmud came. They want to say, well, no, it's not the Babylon, it's the Jewish Talmud. A Talmud is a Talmud is a Talmud. You know, you can change the name if you want. And it was an oral tradition because it was so damning. But then the part that's in written form today is still pretty damning, I got to say, where they talk about raping 3-year-old babies, and it's not a crime, and it's not a crime to kill, and then we're going to be pegged for, and they're not even Semites, and that's what's really funny about it. The first time, just so you know, when the term anti-Semitism was used, it was when Norman Dodd, who worked for banking, and it was right at the time of the Great Depression that was going on, and so one of his upper bosses said, Norman, why don't you figure out what's going on and get back with us, do a report, investigate what this depression is happening for. And so he does his investigation, and he comes back, and I see we got some real buffering. I hope it's not shutting right now. So give us an audio check, please. Put it in the Norman Dodd. I guess we're good. Okay, so Norman Dodd comes back 2 years later, and he writes his report, and he shows how the banking pyramid works, and with the people at the top. And he says that they then told him in a meeting, Norman, we appreciate your research, but we don't want you to talk about this anymore. Just forget about it. Go play tennis and golf, and keep your job. But he couldn't, because he found out. In fact, when he told this one guy, his last name is Sox, just like White Sox, Black Sox, the baseball teams. Well, this guy's name was Sox. And when Norman Dodd told him how the game is played, he said, Norman, I can't. Thank you guys for the audio check. Appreciate it. And he says, I can't stay here and listen to you, because you're not going to live if I hear what you're going to say. And so he says, so get out of my office. And so he gets out, and so he quits banking because he couldn't no longer. And okay, we're gone. So I'll stand by here.